check out ESPN Film's newly released 30 for 30 podcasts. From the producers of our award-winning documentary series, this is an amazing collection of sports stories you need to hear to believe. Speaking of amazing, Delta Airlines and the Fly Delta app make your travel experience amazingly easy with real-time bag tracking, e-boarding, and passport scanning during check-in. And don't forget to download 30 for 30 podcasts to fill your flight with stories that will keep you coming back for more.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio. That's 710 ESPN LA. That's 98.7 FM, New York City, and of course, nationwide over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, Sirius XM style, Channel 80. Number to call up as always is 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Lots of stuff to get into, which we obviously will on this particular day. Got a game tonight, New England Patriots going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Definitely looking forward to having that discussion, along with getting set to discuss the NFL week. Some of these games scheduled to take place this weekend. Lots of stuff to talk about in the NBA, considering GM survey says that Paul George is the biggest pickup in the offseason. I'll explain to you why I respectfully disagree with that. So that'll definitely be interesting to discuss. There's no way around that. I'm looking forward to having that conversation. The list will go on and on and on, but we all know where the news starts today, right? Mr. Cam Newton is in the news. Former league MVP, just took the Carolina Panthers to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Still a big-time baller. We all know this. He's an individual that has had somewhat of a storied past. I think that for the most part, he's gotten a bad rap in certain respects. But I certainly can't say that today. Cam Newton looks real bad today. Is he in trouble? No. The NFL's not going to suspend him, no. But his comments towards reporter Jordan Rodrigue of the Charlotte Observer has made him no friends. That's for sure. And as a result, Cam Newton finds himself in absolute positive hot water. Want to play that sound for you because Cam Newton, just so for those of you wondering who may have read about it or heard about it but may not have heard directly what he said and how he responded and why he's being labeled a sexist today, here's what transpired during a press conference Cam Newton was having yesterday. Listen up.
I know you take a lot of pride in seeing your receivers play well. Devin Funchess has seemed to really embrace the physicality of his routes and getting those extra yards. Does that give you a little bit of an enjoyment to see him kind of truck sticking people out there?
It's funny to hear a female talk about routes. Like, it's funny. But fun is coming along, man. We're gonna. This is a big game for him.
It's funny to hear a female talk about routes. We live in different times. That statement right there is chauvinistic and sexist as it is. He might have gotten away with that at some point in time or another before. That's certainly not something that's happening today. Cam Newton is being excoriated, in some circles castigated. The world over right now. Michael Neuwirth, a spokesperson for Dannon. Remember, that's the maker of Oikos, which is a yogurt product. Obviously, their target audience is women. A spokesperson for the company told ESPN's Darren Rovell that the company would continue to keep Cam Newton under contract without using him. Neuwirth said Dannon has started the process of pulling existing advertising that contains Newton and his name. Newton's marketing agent, Carlos Fleming of WME/IMG, told Rovell that Dannon did not sever its active endorsement deal with his client, nor do they have the grounds to, according to Carlos Fleming of WME-IMG. None of Newton's other primary sponsors, including Under Armour and Gatorade, have issued statements since Newton's news conference yesterday. But the statement from Dannon did say this, quote, "We are shocked and disheartened at the behavior and comments of Cam Newton towards Jordan Rodrigue, which we perceive as sexist and disparaging to all women. It is entirely inconsistent with our commitment to fostering equality and inclusion in every workplace. It's simply not okay to belittle anyone based on gender. We have shared our concerns with Cam and will no longer work with him." So I guess he still gets his money, but they're pulling the advertising, and they're essentially saying they don't plan on working with him. Cam Newton was wrong. Cam Newton's words were incredibly disappointing. And I speak in that fashion because here's my problem. Cam Newton is incredibly conscientious. So much so that at times he's come across as a bit inauthentic. He's consistently and constantly caring about what he says, how he says it, how it's perceived, how it's come across. So much so that people have questioned on numerous occasions how fake or real he is. And so to know that about him and to watch him allow those words and that temperament to be displayed in front of 30 members of the media, particularly emanating from a question that was a viable, legitimate question on her part. You know, Funches has got more physical with his routes. He absolutely has done that. He seemed to have embraced the physicality of his position, and I don't think that because she's a woman, it should impede her ability to pick that up and to notice that and articulate it. And see, I'm one of those guys, and let me put myself on Front Street just so everybody can understand. And, Kat, I'd like you to stand up. This is my board up, along with my producers, Jonathan and Nuno. I want you to understand it because I want to make sure I'm not crossing any lines by saying this. Let me confess to you where I am chauvinistic, where I don't want to see a woman in the same workplace as a man. I don't want to see a woman on the football field. I want to see a woman playing in the NFL against men. I don't want to see a woman boxing in the ring against a man. I don't want to see a woman fighting in the octagon against a man in the UFC. I don't want to see that. Now, if that makes me a chauvinist, my hand is raised. I'm a flaming chauvinist if that's what makes me chauvinistic. I do not want a woman in the same arena as a man when it comes to something physically violent. Period. And that's me acknowledging there's plenty of women out there who can whip my you-know-what. Okay? So if I'm boxing a woman, certainly if I'm fighting Layla Ali, she might knock me out. You knocking out Canelo Alvarez? Or Triple G? It's a different challenge, wouldn't you say? You might go in the octagon and you could kick my butt. You're beating John Bones Jones. You're beating Daniel Cormier. You're beating George St. Pierre. No. You're on a football field. I don't want to see J.J. Watt sacking a woman. I don't want to see that. And I'm not apologizing for it. But when it comes to your intellect, your intelligence, and your ability to perform your job in that capacity, one could easily make the argument women do a better job than most men. They just do. Far more thoughtful than us at times. Far less emotional than us at times when it comes to performing their job. And you're going to have people out there talk about how other people got passes. I got one of my boys who I love dearly, but I can't talk to him about things because it's too much black and white. And it lacks objectivity, and I don't have time for it. Cam Newton is going through this, but I'm hearing about Rick Pitino getting passes. Let's deal with this issue. You got time for all of that. Cam Newton was wrong. Cam Newton should not have said what he said. And more importantly, there was no justification for it. None. Now, does that make him this awful person that none of us should ever support? No, it does not. He's done far more good than bad. But what it should do is, it should make him stand up and apologize and man up. And acknowledge that he was wrong and show the appropriate level of contrition. It should make him do that. Except I don't know whether it will or not. 866-729-ESPN is the number to call up. This 866-729-ESPN. Got a lot of stuff to talk about, some NFL stuff to get into. The Yankees and the Red Sox both get ready to play postseason games. Who's got a better chance of going to the World Series? Interested in knowing y'all take on that. Plus, we'll continue talking about Cam Newton. We'll get into tonight's Patriots-Tampa Bay Bucks game. And Terrell Pryor for the Washington Redskins got some issues with some people. I'll discuss whether or not that's valid itself as well.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo!
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
One of the things that's important to mention, because we're always interested in fairness, right? Let's keep in mind that, listen, I want to preface my comments by saying this. Your reaction is going to be that one has nothing to do with the other. And I want to preface my comments by saying I agree with you with what I'm about to do. Whatever Jordan Rodriguez's past entails does not offset what Cam Newton did in terms of displaying chauvinistic and sexist tendencies like he did yesterday. Because he didn't appear to direct, first of all, it would be inexcusable even if it was directed specifically at Jordan Rodriguez. But he said women, females. He generalized as if to say a woman doesn't belong in a locker room. That's how he came across, which is inexcusable, cannot be defended. But it is important to point out that on August 10th, 2013, Jordan Rodriguez was driving in a car with her father and said, quote, "He's the best. Racist jokes the whole drive home." Months before that, on December 28th, 2012, another tweet. "My dad is being super racist as we pass through Navajo land." I have not seen it, but the NFL Pro Football Talk, right, John? My producer, Pro Football Talk, is claiming that she used the N-word too, and that ultimately it's something that Jordan Rodriguez, I don't know when she apologized, but apparently she just apologized for tweets from the past. So one could argue, if you want to support Cam Newton, everybody makes mistakes. And if she's allowed to make mistakes, why isn't he? That's what they're going to say. My attitude is one has nothing to do with the other. Damn right she should have apologized. She seemed to be celebrating her father's apparent racist tendencies. I'm not calling him racist. I don't know the man, never met the man, haven't heard what she said. I'm only going by her tweets. She's essentially calling her own father that, but at the same time laughing about it. So that's unfortunate. I want to let the record show she should have to apologize for that. She really, really should. However, that does not absolve Cam Newton. Cam Newton is incredibly careful about everything because he's constantly cognizant about what folks absorb from what he's saying. He's very, very image conscious. So how he could make such an error or reveal such a trait about himself, whatever way you want to go with it, is surprising. It really, really is. And the word that I come up with is disappointing. Cam is winning football games. Cam is completing 65% of his passes. Cam Newton just finished beating Tom Brady. Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers are tied for first place in the NFC South. Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers appear to be back on track. And I happen to believe that for the most part, Cam Newton has been a pretty good guy. But it's going to be hard for him to get beyond this when the makers of Oikos sit up there and say, we are shocked and disheartened at the behavior and comments of Cam Newton towards Jordan Rodrigue, which we perceive as sexist and disparaging to all women. It is entirely inconsistent with our commitment to fostering equality and inclusion in every workplace. It's simply not okay to belittle anyone based on gender. We have shared our concerns with Cam and will no longer work with him. That's essentially losing an endorsement deal. Chances are more might follow. 50% of the NFL's audience are women. Nearly 50% of the NFL's audience are women. And there is no doubt that they will take extremist offense to this, as they should. But at the same time, you're going to see stories coming out about Jordan Rodrigue now, a graduate of Arizona State, the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism, who worked covering Penn State and State Park before getting hired by the Charlotte Observer, who colleagues have come to the defense of, like columnist Mr. Fowler for the Charlotte Observer, talking about her great work ethic and her commitment to excellence covering the NFL because she's a football junkie. It's not going to stop these articles being written about her. Somebody right now, my producer just handed me a story. The headline reads, reporter Jordan Rodrigue, who was target of Cam Newton's sexist comment, previously made racist comments on Twitter. And it's quoting her on Twitter saying the earth moves at 450 plus miles per hour. That's 10 times triller than NASCAR Dale Earnhardt's a B and N-word. That's what she wrote. This is her Twitter account. So she calls Dale Earnhardt a B and the N-word. So you know what other people are going to say, right? How come y'all are reacting to this way over Cam Newton, but nobody's reacting over? So when was this tweet written? It had to be the other day because Dale Earnhardt, that's what she's just commenting about. So she used the B word and the N word to criticize Dale Earnhardt. People going to bring that up? Now, here's her apology. And when did this apology come to know? Today, about an hour ago. Jordan Rodrigue, the reporter from the Charlotte Observer. I apologize for the offensive tweets from my Twitter account from 4 to 5 years ago. There is no excuse for these tweets and the sentiment behind them. I am deeply sorry and apologize. That's what she said. Basically commenting about the tweets from her father. Racist jokes and all of this other stuff. Now, here's the other interesting twist. We all were complimentary about the fact that she didn't try to make this bigger than what it was, trying to capitalize off of it. She just sat up there and said what happened with her and Cam, and she left it at that. Maybe this is the reason why, because she knew these tweets were out there in the stratosphere. I don't know. I want to stay for the record, though. That's a separate issue. It doesn't absolve Cam from what he did yesterday. Period. 866-729-ESPN. It's 866-729-3776. 866-SAY-ESPN. To your calls in a minute before Tedy Bruschi comes on at the top of hour number 2. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Phones we go. Back here in the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Let's go to it. Jarrell, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me. I'm all right. Go ahead, buddy.
I wanted to comment on Cam Newton. I think maybe his he said was taken out of context. Maybe he thought, like, you know, a lot of times, like, a lot of women, they're not into football. But to hear a woman speak about football in that way, he might have thought that was sexy of a woman, but he knew he couldn't say, oh, that's sexy. So he just said, oh, that's, you know, it's funny to hear that coming from a female, you know?
All right, but let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
How many people you think interpreted it that way?
Not many.
All right, stop right there. No, stop right there. Stop right there. I'm going someplace else. Chances are you would know better than saying that because you know how it could be misconstrued, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, therefore, there's still no excuse. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In other words, we don't dissect it enough. Like, we'll sit up there and say, Stephen A. or somebody else, you know, he probably didn't mean it that way or whatever. And you know what? For all we know, maybe you're right. But chances are you got to know better. And see, that's the whole point. You got to know better. And Damian Woody, NFL analyst for ESPN, former 2-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots and a former New York Jet as well, my buddy. He came on First Take this morning, Jarrell, and you know, he made a very valid point. You know what he brought up? The plight of the African-American quarterback. And how when you are an African-American and you play the quarterback position, you had to deal with stereotypes. You had to deal with erroneous assumptions and things that minimized, if not flat out dehumanized, who you were and what you were capable of, which makes it even more unforgivable that he could make the mistake that he made in, you know, talking to her that way. Do you see my point?
Yeah, I understand that.
And that's you know, I didn't even think about that point until Damian Woody brought it up. And I said, that's a point. That's a very valid point. Because not that it's okay under any circumstances, but to be a black quarterback, to have to fight off the stereotypes. One of the things that I constantly talk about as it pertains to the African-American community, to be blunt and totally open, Jarrell, is that we wake up, we come out of the womb having to fight off stereotypes every day of our lives. So to me, it should heighten the level of sensitivity we have towards those who are stereotyped against, because we know from experience how unfortunate that is.
Yeah,
so how could you not know? And how could you be insensitive to that if you're Cam Newton? That's my problem.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
All right, man. Take it easy. Brandon, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
How you doing, Stephen A?
I'm all right. Go ahead. Speak up because you're mumbling. We can't hear you, bro. I need clarity. Go ahead.
You hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, now I'm a Panthers fan, and I'm not condoning what Cam Newton did. Now, as somebody who you said is conscious of everything he says and how people are perceived by him, immediately in the moment, if he was super conscious, he should apologize right then, there, in that moment on the podium.
Correct.
And if he didn't do it there, when Jordan Rodriguez approached him after he left the locker room, when he saw that was something that obviously bothered her, that would have been a moment where he could have said something too.
I agree.
Now for me, the way I look at it, laughing and smiling deal from the same muscle in the face, and they're obviously synonymous, but they're different. When Cam Newton said what he said, I believe that he was smiling, and I agree with your other caller when he probably thought, hey, that's sexy. She's getting real sophisticated about knowing her routes. That's something, it gives me little tingles. Now, obviously, you can't say nothing like that. You're a quarterback. You got to be professional. You got to understand what position you play and who you are for that team. Now, I believe he was doing good by that, and then before you went to break, you said that the comments that she had about her dad and the racist remarks and using the N-word, obviously, I'm black and I don't condone none of that at all. Now, do I think bad of her as a person for some tweets that people want to go get 5 years later? No, I don't feel bad about Oh, I just lost my train of thought.
Don't worry about it, man. We got your point. We got your point. Now, I appreciate it. You make valid points. I get where you're coming from. We got it. I appreciate the call. Christian, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, buddy.
Yes, sir. I just had a quick question. I wanted to know what you think about people holding these athletes to the standard they hold them to, but kind of not holding President Trump, to that same standard with some of the stuff that he's come out and said about different groups and different people.
Well, I will tell you this. I appreciate that question, Christian, because here's my point about it. You got to hold Cam Newton accountable for this. You can't do what he did, period. But I got to tell you, the thought of folks holding him accountable more so than they hold our commander-in-chief accountable for his behavior sickens me. Because in the end, say whatever it is that you want to say. Cam Newton ain't nothing but a football player. He's a grown man, hopefully a God-fearing individual who's just a man playing football. The commander-in-chief, the president of the United States, he's the most powerful man on earth. He has the power to get us into wars. He has the power to contribute to raising or lowering our taxes and infiltrating the lives of over 350 million Americans. And the thought of him being held less accountable for what he says than Cam Newton sickens me. Absolutely sickens me. Doesn't absolve Cam Newton. Ain't trying to let him off the hook for this mistake. He has to be called out for it, no doubt. But the thought of him being held more accountable and being made to suffer more than our president, who, by the way, has never apologized for anything, ever, that does sicken me. I'll admit that, Christian.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate the call. Thank you so much. 866-729-ESPN. More of your calls in a minute. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
The phones we go right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Let's go to William. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Will.
How you doing, Stephen A? I just had a question to ask about Cam. I know he should apologize, but I think it should be face-to-face with the reporter, because I think the media and everyone else is like applying pressure, and it won't be heartfelt if he does it now. I know he needs.
Well, let me tell you why you're wrong. Let me tell you why you're wrong. The reason why you're wrong is because he did it in a public setting. That's why. If it was something that happened privately and somehow it became public, you're absolutely right. But he didn't do it in private by his locker stall in a one-on-one conversation. He did it at a press conference with the cameras rolling in front of 30 media people. That's the problem with your argument, William.
Okay, I understand. I definitely understand. All right.
Take it easy, man. Mo in Manhattan, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Mo.
Hey, Stephen A. So I tried to get through to you yesterday to calm you down. You were so edgy, but I'm glad I got through today.
Well, listen.
You sound better
I like to be edgy from time to time. That makes me excited. I'm not one that wakes up bored about my job. I'm excited to do my job. That's all it is, Mo. But go ahead.
Well, you scared the hell out of some fans. But
so
listen, I'm a huge sports fan. You know that. I'm a diehard Knicks fan. Guys always act surprised when I talk basketball, football schemes, all about sports. So I can understand, where Cam was coming from. It wasn't right. He shouldn't apologize. It was highly offensive. But, it shouldn't be such a big deal. I mean, honestly, sometimes I'm surprised when I see, white people eating soul food. It doesn't mean that I'm prejudiced. I'm just surprised. I don't think it should get carried away.
Okay. That's a very valid point, Mo, and I appreciate you making it. Thanks so much. Very, very thoughtful on your part. Mo said it, he should apologize. He was wrong. But what's the line that she used? Sometimes she's watching, white folks eating soul food and she's surprised. It doesn't mean she's racist. She was just surprised by it. That's a very unique perspective that at this particular moment in time, because very, very few people have it, Mo. But thank you so much for making the call, and appreciate you enlightening us. Jay in Long Island, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
How you doing, Stephen A?
I'm good, man. What's up?
All right. I disagree with you today. I'm on the lines with Mo. I don't think Cam did anything vicious. I don't think he attacked, assassinated what she's been doing.
Hold on, stop right there. Stop right there. Well, why would you disagree with me? I'm not sitting here and saying that he did X, Y, and Z with malicious intent or anything like that. I'm sitting there saying he was wrong and he needs to apologize. Do you not agree with that?
No, I don't. I disagree with that.
So you don't think he should have? So I just want to be clear. So you don't think he should have to? Because Mo was saying he should apologize. You said you agree with her. She said she thinks he should apologize. You don't believe he should?
No, I agree with her as far as his intent. That's what I agree with Mo about, his intent.
Okay.
A lot of time when you're around women and you hear them talking about football, a lot of that's sometimes I'm not going to talk about every guy, but that's a guy's dream. Sometimes you and your woman and things like that sitting around, y'all can talk football. A lot of time the guys is watching the games and the women is, there are women who went into the football. But a lot of times.
But wait a minute. I'm still trying to decipher why you don't believe he should apologize.
Because he's talking as far as, he's caught off guard at a woman, right, that's breaking down routes and things like that. That's something.
Stop right there.
So at that moment,
Got it. Stop right there. I got a question for you. You listening to me, Jay?
Yes.
Got a couple of questions. I need quick answers, okay?
Okay.
You got a woman?
Yes.
Y'all talk privately?
Yes.
Do you believe that everything y'all talk about is meant to be disseminated in public?
No.
Do you not believe that there are some things that you had better not ever say publicly because of how it could potentially be misconstrued?
Yes.
And if you did make that mistake, would you expect to suffer ramifications for it?
If I think it was something that was
No. Don't give me ifs. I'm asking you direct, specific questions. I just asked you, did you say inappropriate things from time to time? You said yes. I said things that aren't meant to be publicized, right? And I said, and if the things that you say and you could possibly get in trouble for it, would you not mind what you said? You said yes. And I said, if it did happen and you did mess up, okay, would it not warrant an apology?
Yeah, but I don't think he messed up. That's the difference. Like, I understand what you're saying, but I don't think Cam messed up. I don't think he did anything that was egregious. I don't think his comments was that flagrant.
Let's stop right there. Stop right there. Nuno, Cat, replay what Cam said for my man Jay right now. Please re-air what Cam said at this press conference. Go.
I know you take a lot of pride in seeing your receivers play well. Devin Funchess has seemed to really embrace the physicality of his routes and getting those extra yards. Does that give you a little bit of an enjoyment to see him kind of truck sticking people out there?
It's funny to hear a female talk about routes. Like, it's funny. But fun is coming along, man. We're gonna. This is a big game for him.
It's funny to hear a female talk about routes. Go ahead, Jay. You were saying?
Yes, I'm saying he's saying it's funny to hear a female talk about routes. He's saying because most of the people who talk about routes are guys. Looking up and down ESPN, a lot of guys, you have some women that's doing football and you have women integrated, but a lot of times when we having these conversations is with men. So he's not saying he's not taking away any of her credibility. He's not taking away anything. He's just saying that to him, hearing that right now in this time and you breaking down routes and talking about the physicality of my receivers, he's just in awe because he don't have this conversation.
So in other words, he sounded like he was in awe of her, not dismissive of her.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Appreciate the call, Jay. All right. Hey, listen. Listen. I didn't take it that way. Most folks didn't take it that way. But but I got to admit, I give Jay credit because he sees it differently. Look what he's saying. Jay is saying he's saying it was foreign to him. It's not something he's accustomed to seeing. There was no harm, no malice intent, no anything. Jay in Long Island, that's the position he's taking. Now, most everybody else with two ears took it as Cam Newton essentially talking about a female. And how essentially it's funny to hear them talking about football as if they've gathered an understanding of it, essentially challenging their acumen on the issue of football and generalizing in a fashion that women would find offensive because of the battles, the gender battles that women have had to absorb and partake in over the years. Jay in Long Island says, nah, that's not the case. Okay. Remember OJ? I'm not black, I'm OJ. Jay-Z said, okay. Hour number 2 up next. Tedy Bruschi, Patriots and Bucks to preview. We got to get into that. And we will before we get back to Cam Newton and Terrell Pryor and Chris Paul and Paul George in a minute. Stephen A., hour number 2 up next.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.
Check out ESPN Films' newly released 30 for 30 podcasts. From the producers of our award-winning documentary series, this is an amazing collection of sports stories you need to hear to believe. Speaking of amazing, Delta Airlines and the Fly Delta app make your travel experience amazingly easy with real-time bag tracking, e-boarding, and passport scanning during check-in. And don't forget to download 30 for 30 podcasts to fill your flight with stories that will keep you coming back for more.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. Let me get right to it because I got an NFL analyst extraordinaire right here on the show with me. Champion with the New England Patriots in his career. Obviously doing an outstanding job for the family. The one and only Tedy Bruschi is on the line with me right now. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing good, Stephen A. Thanks for having me. You been all right?
I've been all right, man. I find myself in a very, very odd position, Tedy, because people are sitting there going off about the New England Patriots. I know their passing defense has been awful. They're not defending against the run either. They're giving up big plays. I know it's foreign to you. It's just like it's foreign to Damian Woody. But, I mean, they're 2-2, and I think people are acting like they're damn near finished, for crying out loud. What's going on with the New England Patriots, and how concerned are you considering your connection to Patriots lore?
I would say my level of concern is it's high. I don't like to see them have breakdowns defensively because it's a sign of other things. It's a sign of players not accepting the coaching, if you will, or they're not digesting the adjustments. Which within a lot of defenses in the league, there are a lot of adjustments, but within the New England Patriots defensive scheme, there's an adjustment for every motion, for every shift, for every formation. When either Matt Patricia or Bill Belichick, they want a certain call. You see a bunch, you see quad, which is 4 receivers to one side. You see any type of formation with a wildcat quarterback back there. You're going to get a certain call, a certain signal that you should see if you're watching the game from the defensive backs to the linebackers. And things like that, they're not happening. And even when they do, and I see them, and I see, okay, Gilmore's got the signal. He's giving it to McCourty. And then there was still a bust versus Carolina. That's something to where I'm thinking to myself, all right, I know a player like McCourty's been there a while. All right, Gilmore's coming over from Buffalo. What's the problem? Why isn't he on board yet, or why isn't he learning it yet? Is he a player that – is he not smart? Those are the things I think of when now, if we're getting into October, Stephen A., and we're having these same problems.
Well, this is the interesting part, but why specifically? What do you think the biggest problem is with the New England Patriots right now? If you had to pinpoint, is it the absence of a pass rush? Is it problems at the linebacking spot? I can't imagine it's the secondary with Butler and Gilmore there. I mean, what specifically stands out in your mind as the number one issue with them defensively?
I would say players aren't showing they grasp the concepts in terms of they're being told it. I guarantee you Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they're being told this formation, this set, this is the adjustment. They go out to walk through. They walk through the adjustment. They go out to practice. Then they do the adjustment again right out there. Then they go back into the meeting rooms, and then they look at it again on film. They're going through that type of learning process over and over again, day after day. So for them to get into a game and not do it, there's some type of lapse. There's some type of lapse in communication. There's sometimes a lapse in concentration that they're not showing, because the coaches, I believe, are coaching them the same way, but the players right now are not showing that they're grasping what they're being taught. That's the problem for me. Now, you talked about the run. You talked about the run defense a little bit. Sometimes you just get beat physically. When certain people are on the edge that maybe shouldn't be on the edge, or you got an inside linebacker that isn't that person that should be there. I don't know. You're out of position, or you get beat physically. That's happening too versus the run game. So they have a lot of problems going on right now.
What can Bill Belichick do about this based on what you've seen? Based off of what you've seen. And and by the way, how do you think they'll do tonight? Because they're going up against Tampa.
Yeah, tonight, I'm curious about tonight. I wonder first of all, if Dirk Cutter is the type of coach that says, you know what, this is what they're having problems with, so this is what we're going to attack them with. Or is he a type of coach that just says, you know what, I got my own stuff. They'll probably get that fixed, so we're just going to run what we run. When I think you absolutely have to test them in certain ways. And if everyone knows, and everyone's been talking about this week, all of the bunch formation, well, do you build a bunch? Do you motion to the bunch from the right side to the left side? Do you use a tailback offset as a part of the bunch that's close, stack receivers close to the line of scrimmage? There's various different ways that an offense can get to it. So I'd like to see that. In terms of what Coach Belichick and Coach Patricia, the defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia, what they need to do is, for tonight, on a short week, I think these players are overloaded. I think they're overloaded to the point where it's so much on their brain that they're just shorting out on the field. So for this Thursday night game, when you only have a couple days to get ready before you get on a plane, do you simplify? Do you take some out? Yes, for this Thursday night game, absolutely, I think you do. But moving on, you got to reinstall and reteach and reapply and just hope that they get it, because you'll need this down the line.
Tedy Bruschi right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Tampa, what do you think about them viewing the NFC South, seeing what Atlanta and Carolina are doing? The Saints are on the come up over the last couple of weeks as well. Just looking at the NFC with Green Bay, with the Rams being such a surprise, Seattle still relevant, etc. What do you see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as at this particular moment in time?
Yeah, that's why this game is so intriguing tonight, to see them play, to see what they are, because I anticipated before the start of this year is them opening some eyes and being able to surprise some people and possibly fight for a wild card spot in late December, or, in week 16 and week 17, have those games where if we win this game, we're in. If we win this game and the Panthers lose their game, we're in. To be in that type of position, I think they're a team that can do that. So, to see what, Jameis can do with that offense, you all know it. With Deshaun Jackson, he's been struggling a little bit so far, to see if he can get going. But I really do think this is a team that can surprise a lot of people. Tonight, with Quan Alexander being out, possibly Levante David being out, that's going to hurt them. But these are two teams that are hurting a little bit, and which coaching staff is going to have their team ready to win.
Tedy Bruschi right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Who's the biggest surprise in the NFL thus far in your mind?
Man, the biggest surprise in the NFL so far, how about those Buffalo Bills? Let's stick to the AFC East and the Buffalo Bills and Sean McDermott and what he's done with that defense, saying, you know what, I don't need you, Stephon Gilmore. You go ahead and get paid with New England. Why don't I, Sammy Watkins, all of these other players, Marcel Darius, go ahead and sit on the bench because I don't like your attitude, whatever that issue is. And he says, we're just going to go out there and play my brand of football, which is good defense, don't turn the ball over, and then progress and learn as we go. And all of a sudden, they're winning a game in Atlanta. I know Julio Jones got hurt. I think Mohamed Sanu also was out in that game. But what he's done and how he's in, I believe they're in first place in the AFC East right now. That's a surprise to me, and I'd like to see them to see if they can sustain it, because I'd like to see if the the New England Patriots can have some competition and win in that AFC.
I'm shocked that you didn't bring up the Los Angeles Rams, considering what we thought about Jared Goff, how much we lamented Jeff Fisher being there as the coach at the coach at the time that he was there last season before he got appropriately so fired. By the way, I'm wondering why you didn't bring up the Rams, considering what we've been seeing from them. They were in first place in the NFC West for crying out loud.
Yeah, for them too. That's another spark team, if you will. If Buffalo got a new head coach that gave them a spark, I mean, this is a new head coach, a coordinator that's really got that defense going, and it's amazing what a different philosophy, a different voice in someone's ear, what they can do. And for Jared Goff and the work that he's done, look what just bringing in Deshaun Watson for the Houston Texans. I mean, it seems like they're a different team. The energy level. Because all of them know now, man, we got a chance with this guy. So their game just raises. It's just how emotional football can be sometimes, and how that aspect of the game is something that really should be taken into account.
Before I let you get on out of here, we all know what the news has been today, Tedy Bruschi, with Cam Newton addressing the female reporter yesterday, the manner in which he did, and obviously he's the center of sports news on this particular day. As a veteran, as a champion in the National Football League, no doubt playing in Foxborough, Massachusetts, being covered by female reporters throughout your day. I'm sure you've been subjected to that. What was your reaction when you learned of how he responded to that reporter yesterday in Charlotte?
Yeah, Stephen, I was very disappointed because I know how professional all of these journalists / reporters are. And her name was Jordan Rodriguez. Is that possible? I hope I'm not saying that correctly.
That's absolutely accurate. Go ahead.
Yeah, and for her to just say something to her is like, good job. Good job not only ask that question, but that was a question of technique. That was a very detailed question, asking about Funchess's routes, the way he's running them more technically, the way that he's running them more physically was the word I think that she used, because I watched the entire press conference. And you know what? I've been in my locker, and I've been at the podium to where, yes, I get so bored answering questions. What's the mindset? How's it like on a short week? What do you have to do now because guys are hurt? Well, you got to deliver the cliche. So I was always telling myself, which one of you are going to do your homework enough to ask me a question that's detailed enough where I can say something besides a cliche? Well, Jordan Rodriguez did that. She did her homework, and she saw something with Funchess's routes that she wanted an answer to. So that was an opportunity for Cam to have a football conversation with, I'll call it a colleague, because she is trying to cover him, and they should be working together. And he blew that opportunity, and now, he's losing sponsors now, of course, the news and all of that, and he's getting a lot of bad publicity, and he should, because you need to respect all journalists out there that are trying to do their job to ask you questions the best they can.
Do you think he can recover from this?
Yeah, I think he can recover from it. I mean, it's something to where I think he definitely needs to apologize to this young woman. I mean, that's something where she is. I read a little bit more about her, and she is a football junkie. And she's covered the Panthers, I believe, for a couple of years at the Charlotte Observer. Started at Arizona State, doing a lot of things. Yep. So fell in love with football back from when Boise and that Statue of Liberty Bowl game.
Correct.
So this is a journalist that loves the game and has studied the game. Subscription to NFL Game Pass, whatever it was, good for her. And she does deserve an apology. And Cam, it'll take some time, but I think sure, win some games. Conduct yourself the right way, he'd come back.
The most ridiculous part about this is that we're talking about something cerebral. We're talking about something intellectual. And in that department, women are usually better than us. That's the thing. I really don't understand it. I just don't get it. I just don't get it.
And I brought this up to my wife, and my wife said, I know what a route is. I know how it's run. And I just started, it's like, yes, a lot of non-football playing people across the country know football.
No question. Appreciate you, buddy, as always, man. Take it easy. Enjoy the game tonight.
All right, Stephen.
All right.
Thank you.
One and only Tedy Bruschi,
Bye-bye.
NFL analyst extraordinaire for ESPN right here on ESPN Radio. 866-729-ESPN is always the number to call up. That's 866-729-3776. Your calls and more. Plus, you heard what he had to say about Cam Newton just now, didn't you? Keep listening. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Want to be a part of the show? Hit Stephen A. up weekdays from 1 to 3 Eastern at 866-729-3776.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo! Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I got to tell you, I'm kind of annoyed that the Cam Newton subject is on our minds, that Terrell Pryor swearing that folks in the crowd were spewing the N-word in his direction and he had to be restrained by NFL security and others is in the news. Because my attitude is not that it makes it okay, because it's not okay. But please understand, the N-word and other racial epithets are aimed in the direction of folks, particularly professional athletes, all the time, especially when you're Terrell Pryor. For every one catch you drop about 3 or 4. Now, that doesn't make it right, but it happens. When people want to hurt your feelings, they say stuff that are hurtful. That's how insidious, how the malicious this world can be. But I'm upset that these are topics of discussion. Because I got to tell you something. I want to talk about the Yankees. I mean, after I saw the Yankees perform the way that they performed the other night, I know it was against the Minnesota Twins. I know that they are not the Cleveland Indians. I know that with Kluber and the crew and Tomlin and those boys, Cleveland's no joke. But I'm sort of feeling the New York Yankees right now. I'm sort of feeling them right now. I got to tell you something. Watching Judge and Sanchez and Gregorius and Gardner and the crew, I'm excited. I mean, to a guy to wet the bed the way Severino wet the bed. Couldn't even get 2 outs. Got yanked with 1 out in the first inning. And for the Yankees bullpen to come out there and record 26 outs. Look, I got to tell y'all, it's special. I think they got a chance. I don't want to hear any damn thing about the Boston Red Sox. I want to hear it. I'm not a believer. Yes, it's an emotional decision. I got it. But I'm not trying to hear it. I don't believe in no damn Red Sox. I'm worried about Chris Sale. That's about it. I'm worried about no Red Sox. Not even a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm just not. Chris Sale is no joke. You got me there. 2.90 ERA. Pomerantz is no joke either. Got Porcello? Look. Got an ERA over 4.6, please. Why am I going to worry about him? Fister, we don't know the availability of Price and what he's got left in him. I'm not worried about Boston. You got to get past Cleveland. And these cardiac kids, these baby Bronx Bombers, I'm excited. I believe they can do it. I would love for them to meet the Dodgers in the World Series. I would love it. I want to see those boys against Kershaw. By the way, speaking of the Dodgers, I don't even know if they're getting past the Arizona Diamondbacks. I ain't going to lie to you. I'm a little bit worried about that. 866-729-ESPN. It's 866-729-3776. Back to the phones we go. Dre in San Diego, you live with Stephen A. What's up?
What's going on, Stephen A?
Talk to me.
I was just trying to touch on the Terrell Pryor situation.
Yep.
When he was talking about, he's over here saying that he was hearing the N-word back and forth during the game. He had somebody have to come and stand next to him. But, that's all fine. But when you act out and you retaliate, that's what they want to see. That's the whole reason why they kept picking on him, because they knew that he was going to react, and he did exactly what they wanted him to do. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Well, like I said that this morning on First Take. He played right into their hands. And that's what you have to be careful about.
This doesn't only start in the NFL. I mean, this starts from grade school. I mean, you hear this all the time.
Whoa. It starts in grade school, but the fact of the matter is plenty of adults lose their cool when they're verbally attacked. This is not new. It shouldn't happen. We got to be careful about that, but it happens.
I think if he would have approached the situation how Adam Jones took it and just didn't react and would have went straight after the game and said, hey, I was attacked and this is what happened, maybe we would have been talking about the situation instead of just him reacting.
I got you. I got your point. Appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. On another note, wanted to acknowledge that our Vice President Pence, is scheduled to visit Florida, the United States, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico tomorrow. It's a good thing because Lord knows, particularly in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, they need all the assistance any of us can give them. Our thoughts and prayers are with them. I just want to take a moment to express that. Let's go to Dominic. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Stephen A., my brother, how you doing?
I'm good. Talk to me.
Good, man. 2 points. I first one, with Cam Newton, I don't think we would be having this conversation if Tom Brady had said those exact same things. I feel like she would have understood if that was him.
No, I disagree with you.
Think so?
It's not a race thing. It's a gender thing. The women would have been all over it. No question. No question about it. I don't care who it is.
I hear you.
Okay.
I just feel like Tom Brady couldn't do no wrong. But second thing, too, baseball. Clayton Kershaw, I don't even know if they're going to make it because he's a different type of pitcher in the postseason. He's not like
I will tell you this. Here's what Kershaw, first of all, Kershaw has had good moments in the playoffs, all right? That's number one. Number two, and more importantly, here's the issue with Kershaw that I don't think people appreciate enough. See, we look at that California sunshine and those palm trees and all of that stuff, and we think it's all cool. You ever sit out in the sun, man? Why is it that the Dodgers are 30, 40 games over 500 and they got Kershaw pitching deep into the seventh or the beginning of an eighth inning? Why do that? You got the conservatives do. That's why I thought him getting hurt and being on a DL for a while was a good thing because you want him fresh for the postseason. Kershaw's too big time, man. I haven't seen him be god awful. What I've seen is he's faded as the game has waned because when you're out there pitching every 5 days throughout the season, particularly in that weather, it can be draining. As beautiful as it may be to the rest of us, for him out on that hill, it's not as easy as people will think.
Makes sense. Thanks, my brother. Thanks for the call.
Thank you. And by the way, the voice of Los Angeles, that's what I call my buddy, the great Bill Plaschke for the Los Angeles Times, said it best. Column in today's paper. This time, the Dodgers cannot settle for anything short of a World Series. He's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Best chance in 29 years to advance to the World Series. All this talk about the Dodgers all year long. Puig and Bellinger and Kershaw and everybody. And Gonzalez, and all of a sudden he's going to fade like cheap tits. Went out and got Granderson from the Mets. Adding pop to your squad and character to your locker room. What's the excuse? What's the excuse? By the way, for y'all that don't remember, Kershaw was pretty damn good last year against the Cubs. Did you forget? He helped the Dodgers to victories in all 4 of their postseason appearances last year, as Plaschke points out in his column. What about the 2-out save on 1 day's rest in Game 5 against Washington last year? What about the 29 strikeouts and just 4 walks? This notion that Kershaw doesn't show up in the postseason, I don't think that's accurate. He's waned, he's fatigued, but I don't think it's one of those situations where he doesn't show up and doesn't get it done. There's no excuse for the Chargers. I'm sorry, for the Dodgers. And by the way, speaking of no excuses, let me transition from baseball to basketball, please. This Paul George story where GM surveyed say he's the biggest off-season acquisition. First of all, I think it's CP3. Because even though I think Paul George is big time, I think that the wealth is going to be shared and dictated by Russell Westbrook. So even though I think he's a big-time acquisition, I think that it's not as big as Chris Paul in Houston. For the first time in Chris Paul's career, and I spoke to him yesterday, the first time in his career, Chris Paul has help at the guard spot. He doesn't have to dribble the basketball all the damn time. He doesn't have to call every play. He doesn't have to run every play. He wanted to play some off the ball. He wanted to be with a superstar at the shooting guard spot who's also capable of being a point guard, which clearly James Harden can be. He wanted to be free to do other things. He had begged Doc Rivers for that for years. Prior to that, he wanted that in New Orleans. Once upon a time, he had a conversation with Doc Rivers saying, I'm not playing with Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan together any longer. Somebody's got to go because I'm tired of dribbling the basketball all the damn time. I need help. And it never came in that regard. J.J. Redick can shoot. Jamal Crawford wasn't on the court with him but 4 or 5 minutes per game. Now he's got help. That's going to be the biggest acquisition. But to get to my point about excuses or absence of, remember this. Just like Kershaw has no excuses, neither does LeBron James. I'll explain why in just a minute. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Just don't have an excuse for at least making the World Series. LeBron James doesn't have excuses either. You know, polls also show that 93% of folks have favored the Golden State Warriors to win the championship. I'm one of those people. Kevin Durant's a superstar. So is Steph Curry. Klay Thompson, Draymond Green are no joke. Mad respect and love for all of them. Here's my issue. I'm tired of people talking about LeBron as if he's at some huge disadvantage. LeBron is the best player in the world. And when you look at the rest of his roster, you still got Kevin Love, you still got Tristan Thompson, you still got J.R. Smith and Kyle Korver. In the offseason, you went out there and got Derrick Rose. You got Jeff Green. In the trade for Kyrie Irving, you acquired Isaiah Thomas, who averaged 28.9 points per game. Yes, he's got the hip injuries, but he's expected to be back by January. And you have Jay Crowder. And you just picked up a 3-time champion, an NBA Finals MVP, who even at the age of 35 can average 18 a night, in Dwayne Wade. What's the problem? What is it that I'm missing? You can go about 10 deep. What's the problem? No excuses. No excuses. Yes, the Warriors are the favorites. Teams as close to a champion as Cleveland is to the Golden State Warriors. They've won before, especially if they got the best player in the world. What's the problem? What's the problem? Winning, no excuses. No excuses. Back to the phones we go. Chris in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen, I appreciate you taking my call, man.
Go ahead, man.
Just real quick, I want to touch on the whole Paul George being the biggest acquisition. I'm going to have to agree with it, but it's not just from a talent perspective. I heard what you said on Chris Paul. He's my favorite player in basketball. But I'm not just looking at it from a talent perspective, Stephen A. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at it as you bring in a guy, and Paul George and Carmelo, who fit the personalities of Russell Westbrook. So let me give you an example. So like last year, when Russell Westbrook went up against Golden State, he was the only one that really won. You can tell. So now you add Paul George and Carmelo. Now he's going into that foxhole with dogs and, as you like to say, Rough Riders behind him. So that goes wrong with not just from a talent perspective.
But the reason why I stand by my statement is because Paul George is that dude, so is Carmelo. And they complement Russell Westbrook and will make OKC formidable. I'm not taking anything away. But the reality is that Chris Paul, and not just what he brings for himself as a point guard and the talent that he has, but what it enables for James Harden has a profound impact. In other words, James Harden may not average 29, 11, and 8 like he did last year. Or then again, he might. And, oh, by the way, he ain't going to be tired in Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals because he doesn't have all the responsibilities on his shoulders the way that he did last year. See, Paul George will feed off of Russell Westbrook, and he will feed off of Carmelo Anthony. Chris Paul is going to be the catalyst for Houston and the catalyst for James Harden. And that's all I'm saying.
Oh, no, agree, Stephen. I'm not refuting anything you're saying. Well, let me ask you this, Stephen, before you let me go. Who do you think who wants Golden State more than Westbrook, though?
Nobody wants Golden State more than Westbrook. That has nothing to do with it. That has nothing to do with the CP conversation. Nobody wants Golden State more than Russell Westbrook. I get that. But that has nothing to do with this conversation. The conversation is about who will have more of a profound impact on their team in terms of who's the biggest offseason acquisition. And I think Chris Paul means more to Houston than Paul George will mean to OKC because of the presence of Russell and Melo. That's all I'm saying.
Understood.
Take it easy, man. I appreciate the call. Let's go to Kevin. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Kev.
Hi, Steve. Let me just say that for me, the media's political correctness PC gone mad.
First of all, I need you to step away from the mic, step back a little bit, because I don't think my listeners understood what you just said because you came across as mumbling because you was too close to the mic. You was too close to the mic. Go ahead.
I believe the media has gone PC, gone mad. I don't have nothing against what Cam said. I played sports. I played all three sports. I was very good. I believe people can study a sport and know the sport. I believe this young woman who asked the question was a very intelligent question. But I laughed also. I thought it was kind of funny because she sounded like a little girl. If a man with a high-pitched voice asked the same question, I would have thought it was funny too. And the reality is that have we gone so sensitive that a man can say, oh, it's kind of funny coming from
well, first of all, Kevin, the answer is yes. It's unfortunate that you're right that we have gotten in a bit too extreme with our PC mentality. You could barely say what you feel in this day and age. I mean, I don't have that problem, but a lot of people do. There's no doubt about that. But the flip side to it, Kevin, is that if you know what the game is, you do have to play it if you want to play in that arena. And that's the part where I think you're letting him off the hook. Even if Cam was as harmless or intended to be as harmless as he may very well have intended to be, it doesn't absolve him from the situation because you got to know better than that because of what you just described. The world that we're living in, how PC it is, how you're subjected to so many things. He knows that. He knows that, not just as a football player, but as an endorser of products. He knows that. And the fact that he made that kind of mistake is really unfortunate.
Well, I understand. I concur with your assessment. However, it's my position that what he did is not that big of a thing.
With all due respect, your assertion doesn't matter. You're not the one who employs him. You're not the league that he works for. You're not the endorser you're not the owner of the product he endorses. So the point is that you might have a point in terms of your own individual feelings, but you have to acknowledge and recognize the fact that we live in a world where that point that you just made doesn't matter. Even if you're 100% right in some people's eyes, it doesn't amount to a hill of beans because you ain't the one making the decisions. You're not the one that just lost an endorsement deal. You're not the company that just confiscated it from him. We live in the world that we live in, and you have an obligation to know it and to capitulate accordingly or work for yourself. That's the reality.
I believe the media has pushed this. I believe it's something.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Fine, no problem. Bottom line is you could say the media pushed it, but the fact of the matter is this. Oikos or whoever it was that just took the endorsement, the yogurt company that just took the endorsement away from him. You could say you could blame the media and stuff all you want to. Who made the call? They did. They did. So that means they capitulate to the pressures of the world. Why? Because the world buys their product. And if you've alienated the consumer, what you going to do? Adrian Peterson was accused of child abuse. There were some people that thought that was unwarranted, that he never should have had to go through that. You know what? The league had to pull him off the field and put him on a commissioner's exempt list because advertisers were pulling their sponsorship for the Minnesota Vikings. You're an intelligent man, Kevin. You know how this works. Stop acting like you don't know. That's all I'm saying. Have a nice day. 866-729-ESPN. It's 866-729-3776. Listen.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Good sleep, ladies and gentlemen. It's so important. With good sleep, you wake up relaxed, refreshed, ready to tackle the next day. Can't do that when you're snoring, you know, because it negates that from happening. I'm a snorer. I would know. That's why I highly recommend Zyppah. That's ZYPPAH, Zyppah, which is Happy Z spelled backwards. Visit Zyppah.com and check out the new pink Zyppah designed by women for women. Folks, I no longer snore, neither should you. Snoring cheats you of sleep and is not fair to the person you sleep with. I don't care what you're doing today. You want that Zyppah sleep tonight. So go to Zyppah.com, please. That's ZYPPAH.com to get the one thing that's guaranteed to get rid of your snoring. And you can experience Zyppah sleep. Go to Zyppah.com, please, to get that Zyppah sleep. I'm talking about Zyppah.com to get the night's sleep you so richly deserve. Back to the phones we go. Real quick. Let's go to Glenn. You're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Glenn, go.
Hey, how's it going, Stephen?
Talk to me, man.
Hey, I don't agree with you on the Cam Newton situation.
Okay.
I kind of believe that Cam Newton, although he did say it's funny for a female to talk about football, he didn't mean it in a way where it's degrading to her. He was just saying
How
it's
do you know?
funny. If I go
How do you know?
and I hear my wife
How do you know?
Routes,
How do you know?
If I go in the kitchen and hear my wife talking about routes, I'm gonna be surprised.
How do you know?
Surprised she
How
had
do
a
you know?
detailed question.
All right, goodbye. You don't want to answer my question. Can't talk to you. See how simple that works? You don't answer my question, you go. Mustafa, you're live. You only got 30 seconds. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. So this Cam Newton thing, you know, I know what he said was stupid and he should have reworded his phrase, but our priorities are messed up. For some reason, we expect more from our athletes than our politicians.
I agree with you totally.
When Donald Trump goes and says, grab a woman by the you-know-what,
yep,
okay, and gets elected, and an athlete says something